PhD and briefed candidate Ronald Reagan in 1979 when he was thinking of running for president on the UFO issue, because Reagan had had a couple sightings, including one on the governor's plane that you may have heard about. It's well documented. And so, President Reagan, here's one of the problems of the president. You get into a position and say you're a governor, or you're a real estate developer like Mr. Trump, whatever you are, or, Mr. Carter said he was a peanut farmer. He was actually a nuclear engineer and the top of his class at Annapolis. Very smart, probably our highest IQ president. Politically not very good, but he was very, very smart. But and you're going to come in there, and the people who are going to come in and brief you on this, if you ask, you're either going to be told nothing, and I know this because I've dealt with it, pretty much every bit of presidential involvement since Clinton. You're either going to be told nothing, or you're going to be told a version of the truth that manipulates you into decisions they want to make. They want you to make, and that's what happened to Mr. Trump and Mr. Pence, and also to Ronald Reagan. So it's dangerous. That kind of secrecy. Let me tell you why it's so dangerous. It's the foxes, and there's manning the hen house. Who's overseeing this, right? Who's looking into this, and who is in charge? Well, it certainly isn't the president. They come and go every 4 to 8 years. Members of Congress come and go all the time. So there's sort of this permanent committee, a few hundred people, and they've arrogated this, because it's so secret, the right to do this. But they cannot be trusted.
Who do they report to?
Themselves. I mean, this is a global operation. And by the way,
it's a global operation. So from different countries.
100%. No, it take the map of the world and erase all the geopolitical lines. It doesn't matter. And that's actually, when the Senate intelligence people wanted me to come in, there was a map of the world in the conference room in the skiff. And I said, see that map? Erased all the lines on it. These folks, the world is their oyster. They operate as they want.
Who nominates them?
Nobody. They move up through the chain of command or through corporations.
How do you move up?
You're moved up by giving a little information, see what you do with it. And if you can keep the secrecy. But more importantly, once you reach a certain level of clearance, and you realize how monstrous and criminal the operations are, will you stay with that? I'm dealing with a team right now that I can't see. I won't even say what state they're in. But let's just say in September, I was on a classified helicopter over 2 black sites and was shown where the underground openings are out in the desert, where the man-made ones come up and are tested. But there are also electromagnetic pulse weapons that are illegal by the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty that are, and I have video and photos of this. One of the photos is in the archive. I'll just tell you that. And there looks like there's a landing strip. It's not. It's an area with diamonds on it, and that's where the man-made, some people call them ARVs, alien reproduction vehicles, come up from underground. And I have the photos and video of the underground opening. We went right around it because this guy was cleared. He's one of the top people in the system, but he's wanting to defect.
And it's one of these 100 people, one of these couple hundred people?
He's very high up. I wouldn't say he's on that policy level, but operationally, he's been read in for many, many, many years, and he's very high up.
What's his reason? And so you went there and you actually saw it?
Yeah, videotape. I have all of it.
And it's public?
Some of it. Off the air, I'll show you the video of it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so that in September, and then of course I was almost killed in October. I think I mentioned it too.
How'd you get almost killed in October?
Oh, someone tampered with my mountain bike seat and it snapped off, and I was going fast, and my left foot came off, and 2 bones were in the air, and my left shoulder came off, and my abdomen got. I had 4 surgeries in 3 months.
You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, I'm up doing everything now, but it was hell on earth. But it's not the first.
And how do you know it was tampered with? How do you know somebody?
Well, I mean, it wasn't the bike that. It was like the whole thing just was kind of sawed through and snapped off. We can't prove anything. Who cares? I mean, as an emergency doctor, I'm a trauma doctor anyway. Ironically, I'm laying there going, it's like an out-of-body experience, seeing me there with my foot off and the bones in the air. But I go, the only thing I said, I'm effed. That's the only thing I said. But, it was a full trauma thing.
How much are you, because you're in this world, who do you trust? Like how do you process who you can trust and who you can't trust?
Oh, it's like the things. It was in the Bible. Ye shall know them by their deeds. So, my wife, my close circle of friends I've had for 50, 60 years, my assistant who's been with me for a quarter of a century, and other people. And, now there's this whole team of, special forces folks and people who are defecting that are very close and who are enormously courageous men who want to do the right thing for the world and for the country. Green Berets and Navy SEALs, some of them. But some of them are still very active. Some have separated from the military and are working in private. But they're all gathering to do this disclosure of the subject. And then what I just mentioned, the gentleman who had me on the chopper over these black sites in September, there's a whole team that he is involved with at these sensitive facilities that are the word used when he first reached out to me was fed up. They are fed up with what's happening to the planet. They're fed up with the illegal secrecy, and they're fed up with some of the atrocities that are happening that they've been part of. And, it's very emotional for these men.
This chairman of the former chairman of the Fortune 50 company, if he comes out, what would he be leaking as a whistleblower to the country, to the world?
Well, he'd be leaking that one of the largest corporations in the world, and certainly in America, had worked on these programs, and he has with him in his possession the schematics and plans for these technologies and devices. And he wants to hand them over before he passes away. But he doesn't want to see any collateral damage with his family. So that's why I mentioned, I've been trying to get this sort of protection. And even with that, I'm not sure who won't. People get very cold feet. I mean, I'll tell you a weird story that happened in the past year. There was a man who had worked out of the northern Nevada test range. His testimony and information and the drawings of this event are in the archive. We took his name out because he doesn't want to be known publicly yet. But he reached out to me about this, and he was on a retrieval team. So it was at if you go from Nellis Air Force Base way north where the nuclear test range was, where we did open air testing, there's a huge area, and there's an underground base there and facility, and there's a team, a helicopter pad team with Delta Force guys, and then this guy had been part of the retrieval operation in hazmat suits. He was first put in there to retrieve man-made, the triangular UFOs that are coming out of Northrop Grumman and Raytheon that would malfunction and crash. And we have great artist rendition of exactly what these look like. Then he was moved into an operation where they would someone was targeting, not him, the extraterrestrial ones, and stun them, and they would go in to retrieve them. And when he realized what we were doing, and he had an encounter with two of these EBINs, extraterrestrial biological entities, is what they're called, or aliens. I don't use the word alien because people think of someone from, Peru. But what happened is he was so sickened by what they were doing, he tried to separate from the operation, which you generally can't do. But he had an uncle, and we know who he is, very high up in this clandestine program, who helped get him out. But then he subsequently went through a whole series of events, including an attempted alien abduction with these fake-looking gray aliens. And he actually knocked one down. We have a great artist rendering of how it split open what looked like the skin, and they were all fiber optics and integrated circuits and stuff. This stuff is very sophisticated technology, way beyond what people can imagine we might have. So when he reached out to me, he was going to come actually to the National Press Club and the congressional things we did last summer in June, about a year ago. And a van pulls up, an SUV pulls up, guys come out, and they say, you step one step further, look at your phone. And they had put child pornography all over his phone, all over his computers, and says, you won't see your two little children again because he was recently in these programs, you'll spend the rest of your life in prison. And he called me up. Now, if some nonsense like that happens to one of my guys now, it'll be monitored. If they come forward, I hand them off to this special access projects team that have this monitoring capability. They will open a criminal file and arrest and open a criminal prosecution of whoever threatens these witnesses. That's what we're setting up, because I'm fed up. I mean, I've been carrying this ball and chain for a long time. So that's the kind of stuff that happens routinely. I deal with this every week, every month. We have a new whistleblower comes forward. And these sort of dirty tricks and nasty nonsense, I'm a civilian. I mean, all this stuff you hear me I'm talking about doing, I've done pro bono without charge in the interest of the public. But, there's a critical mass that's happened, I call it, of very capable military and intelligence and civilian folks who know that it's time for this to come out. And now they have finally put together a way to protect these wonderful, and I have to say, the names you see on that list are incredibly courageous people who've come forward. But sometimes they start to come forward and they get such a threat, they back off.
Let me ask